Okay, you're live.
Hi guys, I'm Natalie, also known as @Nat_does hair, and I'm here with L'Oreal Professional to show you guys how Nat does melts. So we all have those clients that leave your chair with these beautiful, solid, bright blonde ends. 3 months go by, and they come back for their little retouch, and they're like, "Oh, I have to get out in such a hurry." And then you take their hair out of that crazy top knot and it's like dingy level 8 blonde. And you're like, girl, what happened to your hair? This technique is about to change your life. So I first start by prepping my beautiful model with L'Oreal Professionnel's Metal Detox. This is a pre-treatment that neutralizes metals in the hair. Now, you might ask why metals need to be neutralized. Well, metals get in the hair from hard water. And I live in Arizona, and our water comes from 7 feet in the ground, so it's extremely hard. It's full of dirt, debris, you name it, minerals, and it's in there. I'm going to first start by mixing up her root shade because I'm going to kind of blend out some of her old highlight lines since they're a little grown out. I'm using Light 7.01. This is a beautiful level 7 neutral ash, and I just think it gives the smokiest root on some of my lighter girls. So I'm going to go ahead and whisk this up, and I'm going to have my beautiful assistant Kayla go ahead and rinse my model because I actually like to do this on wet hair. Since I do work with an assistant, I like to work extremely fast. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up the rest of her formulas. So after I'm done mixing this, which it takes a little bit of time, I'm going to mix up L'Oreal Professional Blonde Studio 9 with the Bond Builder inside. I really like using this lightener because it has an extremely even, quick lift. And since she has to be out quickly and she wants those bright blonde ends again, I know this is my go-to lightener. I also like this lightener since it does have the bonder inside. Let's be honest, I heat style my hair. My clients heat style their hair. As much as I tell them rinse it with cold water, they're probably not always doing that. So this protects against breakage. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that up. And since I do like to work extremely time efficiency, because let's be honest, if you're a hairstylist, time is money. So I'm also going to mix up her end toner when I'm going to kind of glaze her at the bowl with. And I'm going to use Light 10.21. I love the Light toners because they're acidic, so they do close that cuticle up. And the 10.21 is a violet ash. It's kind of like a violet blue. But since it's a level 10, it's not going to be too harsh on her. It's going to give her that pearlescent blonde. I do know my clients that I work with, and she pulls a little bit warmer, so I don't really have to be concerned about overtoning her. I bring my client back to the chair, and I love to use these like backwards bibs or some kind of plastic to protect my pretty capes. I'm going ahead and I'm combing her out after I rinsed her, and I'm going to part her into 2 sections when really, if this half wasn't done, I would do 3. So I'm going to do right here from the parietal, I'm going to the parietal, and I'm going to her crown, and I'm parting down right behind her ear, and I'm pulling that forward, and then I'm going to go ahead and brush this back. I know I kind of want to take a tailored look that kind of teardrops in the back and gives her blonder around her face, so that's why I'm taking this section. So I'm going to clean it up. And then I'm going to go ahead and just get started. Since I have a clean base and it's neutralized from all the metals, I know that I have 100% reliable color results. So I know this is going to go by really quick and easy for me. I'm going to hand you hair. So I'm going to have my beautiful assistant hold hair for me. But if I didn't have an assistant, I would go ahead and place some foils right there and just flip it over. I'm going to go in again with that level 7 root shade. And I chose to use 6 volume on my client because she doesn't have any grays I need to cover. And I don't want to break her base, so I just want it to deposit. And 6 volume just deposits. I go ahead and outline it slightly. I start and I take about like a 1/4 of an inch section. I have Kayla go ahead and hold it for me. Sometimes I take my comb just so it's not crazy and bunched up. I really want it to lay where the hair lays, and I'm gonna go ahead and comb it out. And I'm gonna place that toner about 1/4 of an inch down from her blonde highlights, her old grown-out highlights. I don't want to go too low because I am going to blend this through, and when you already start too low, you're going to take all of that dark. So you really want to make sure that you are precise in your placement, and you know, if I do this, then I know the blending will go down to here instead of me placing it to here, and it's going to go down to there. I'm starting by taking horizontal sections in the back. And as I work up her head, I'm going to kind of start diagonal backing them. I take horizontal at first because a lot of the times I don't do a ton of folds on my clients. So I like to try to keep as much blonde as I can actually back here, so then they can go longer in between folds. So again, combing it through, and I can kind of see where those highlight lines reside. I try to keep my brush a little bit cleaner. I try not to load too much product. I want it to be saturated, but I don't want it to drip. I find when I apply like too much product with my brush, I start getting like toner spots everywhere, and I really want to avoid this. So I'm just slowly feathering down. Now I'm going to start taking these diagonal sections because I really want to teardrop it in the back. And I like to paint where I want my toner to reside, but I know I'm going to blend it down. So I'm going to paint a little bit further on her crown than I am on her sides, just to create that line. So I kind of draw geometric lines with my mind and kind of imagine that little line. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working up the head. And this is really great for any client because you can really customize this. If your clients like to be barely rooted, then barely top their root. But if you really want to drag it down and create some dimension, you can drag it down and create some dimension. This service only takes me about 1.5 hours from start to finish, even without an assistant. And I can charge over $200 for it. And I can honestly make a really big change. You'll be surprised what a toner and a wet balayage will really do for some hair. And then I let that sit. I kind of shake the hair. I see where it's falling. I try to not over direct too much because I really want to see, okay, this hair isn't really going to lie right here. It's going to lie right here. So I want to make sure that I did the correct placement to give her that teardrop look. Now I'm going to work my way up to the front. I go ahead and brush it out. I'm going to go through and kind of like part out her face framing a little bit. I'm not going to clip it. I just want to kind of know my guide. I almost treat this as like a guide. I want to know that like, hey, I want to stay away from this. I want to keep her face framing nice, bright, and blonde. So I just kind of give myself a little line there. I'm going to go ahead and start at the top, and I'm going to create that diagonal back with my toner. So I'm kind of dragging it a little farther in the back than I am the front. And you can kind of see how I have this little line right there. If you don't have an assistant, you can put a foil there and flip it over. Now, if you have an assistant, I definitely recommend utilizing them, or just some extra hands. I'll just have her go ahead and grab it and kind of slightly over direct it. And now I'm just working my way actually down the head. I really like to do this because I like to blend out those highlight lines at the top first before I drag it down. And I'm remembering to kind of leave out that face framing because I want to tap that last. A lot of the times I find when I tap face framing first, since your hairs right there are extremely porous and fine, they'll grab extremely fast. So if you have a little bit of ash in it, which I do have a little bit of blue in this formula, I know those little baby hairs are gonna grab ashy extremely fast. I choose to do this on wet hair because I really like how far my product goes. And when your hair is wet, your cuticle is actually swollen and open, so it's more keen to taking in that product a little quicker. Sometimes you'll even find hair will lighten a lot faster when it's wet since your cuticle is so open. Now that I'm working like right above her ear, again, she likes to be blonder around her face when she puts her ponytail up. So I'm kind of taking my fingers and I'm just slightly directing it back and I'm just tapping it. Since this is so customizable, I can tap certain places and melt other places. And now I'm just taking her face framing. I love to utilize my comb again. I'm kind of slightly over directing back, but pretty much keeping towards my body at a 90 degree. And I'm just tapping it. And then I'm gonna go to her face. I'm gonna go to her face and I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up, if you guys can kind of see, and I'm just gonna tap right there. Again, I'm pulling it straight up from her head and I'm just tapping right there. I don't want to make her money piece dark.
Somebody said, are you using the color?
I'm using L'Oreal Professionnel Light. It's an acid-based cream toner and 6 volume. I'm using a 7.01, which is a level 7 natural ash. It's literally my go-to. A lot of my clients like to be a little smokier, so I'm usually going towards that. Now that I'm done tapping everything, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the back of my client's head. This is usually my time for gloves. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply my gloves. What causes the hair to get dingy again? Usually metal buildup. So that's why I prepped her, and it's a 3-step pre-treatment. It's called Metal Detox by L'Oreal Professionnel. It neutralizes the metals in the hair. Have you ever lifted somebody's hair and you can't tell quite what's on their hair beforehand, and it doesn't lift necessarily bad, but there's definitely like something on it. Usually that's caused by chemical reactions from the metals already in your hair. I live in Arizona, so we have extremely hard water. So a lot of the times we can get metal buildup from all of our hard water. Now I'm taking it, I'm having my beautiful assistant go ahead and hold that. I'm gonna pump up this chair. Can you pump up the chair?
And then does Metal Detox help a lot when clients use too much purple shampoo? Or
yes, it does. I really find it removing a lot of pigments because it kind of just removes everything unwanted and that's built up in the hair. So since it's removing everything that's unwanted and built up, I've never had a problem with it not getting stuff out. So when I prep with L'Oreal, I spray the pre-treatment, I let it sit for a few minutes until it dries, and then I'll start my service. Once I start my service, I also go ahead and use, after my color service is done, their Metal Detox shampoo. Since the spray/mist neutralizes the metals, the shampoo by Metal Detox actually just removes it. And now I'm taking a blending brush and I'm going ahead and blending down. I don't want to create toner dots all throughout her blonde. So I'm taking it down and I'm kind of just flicking it out. I'm not using a lot of pressure. I don't need to drag too much. I just want it to be blended. Always make sure when you're doing any kind of melt, when you're blending with a brush, whether it's a wide tooth comb or whatever it is, you're not putting your whole weight into it.
How many levels of lift does L'Oreal Lightener give you?
I'm using L'Oreal Professionnel Blonde Studio 9, and it can give up to 9 levels of lift. I'm using the one with the bonder inside, which is my personal favorite. Since it does have that bonder inside, I don't have to worry about breakage. And it can really give an amazing lift. I do a lot of natural level 5 and darker clients, and it's like my go-to lightener.
What products do you use for styling for your hair?
For my hair, I use L'Oreal Professionnel. They have this new curly line that's so amazing. If I'll have to do a video. You guys will have to make one. As I'm working my way up the head, I'm making sure I'm kind of creating that teardrop shape. So I'm also blending with that teardrop shape. Now I'm going to start on my wet balayage. What's really important about doing a wet balayage behind your chair is making sure that you only place that lightener where you want it to lift. So if you're placing that lightener on super dark hair, you're going to break all the base. And that's fine if that's what you're wanting to look for. But since I want to keep her dark and her light, I'm only going to go up to where that it starts getting dimensional. So I'm going ahead, taking my Blonde Studio 9 with the Bond Builder Inside lightener. I'm painting it on. I'm going to go ahead and start feathering it up just right to where I see her highlights kind of start and her solid ends end. I'm combing it through and I'm just blending. A great thing to do when you're doing this is also just to lift the hair up and make sure that everything underneath looks really nice and blended. Now, as I'm moving up the head, I like to place cotton right where the lightener kind of ends, because I really don't want a lot of overlapping. A lot of the times when you don't place something as a barrier, the head naturally has graduation. So you're gonna end up getting lightener dots where it's touching the hair. And I really wanna keep my placement.
How long does the wet balayage process?
I like to do it by eye, but usually I let it sit minimum 25 minutes because I like to let it sit how long the toner at the top has to sit. But if I want it to sit longer, I just go ahead and let it sit longer.
Do you always use cotton or ever mesh?
I will use mesh. It also depends on what kind of look I'm going for. But since this one, I don't need a ton of lift, and I prepped her with the metal detox, I really don't need anything. What I also really like about metal detox is since I neutralized all those metals in her hair beforehand, I don't have to worry about unreliable color results. I know like the lightener's not going to lift green, like nothing's going to do anything I don't want it to do. As I'm pulling up, I'm going ahead and just blending it. If my cotton goes a little crazy, I just move it and I replace it. I can also kind of move where I'm placing the hair around too, but again, you're going to cause over direction. So keep in mind where you want the hair to lay. So blending up, I see her highlights and lowlights kind of start right there. So I'm not going higher than that. What I really like about this bond builder that's built inside L'Oreal's lightener is that it makes the hair look shinier after it's done. It really gives it that like beautiful effortless gloss and closes that cuticle up. I also like to keep a towel handy by me. I'll go ahead and throw it in my apron if I want to, or I'll keep it in my tray.
Someone just asked, how do you recommend someone to start trying a new line? I've never used L'Oreal Professionnel, but I'm always scared to try new toners. Any advice?
Yes. So I love to create my own swatch book and buy them. So I always have, even though I've used the Eiley for a long time, I always keep my swatch book handy. That way I can always reference things. And then I also create my own swatches. This sounds a little weird, but like if my clients are chopping off 10 inches of their hair, I'm going to rubber band it and keep it and then lighten it and place toners on it. That way I can really see how it works in the hair. And you can buy swatch rings at your like local hair shop, and you can just go ahead, buy a few toners that you want to try at first, test it out, and then move on from there. You don't have to do the whole line at once. Kind of start with, oh, I really love like ashy 10s. I tend to reach for them a lot. And I really love acidic toners, and that's why I've been loving Eiley. because it closes the cuticle like perfectly.
Someone asked, are you taking diagonal partings working up the head?
Yes, I am. So slide your head down, Kelsey, or towards me, maybe. Yeah, so you can kind of see that diagonal back section. I don't know my ups and my downs today.
Someone just joined and they're asking what you're teaching today.
I'm teaching my signature melt, which is called Nat Does Melts. So I'm showing a quick service that you can do on your client's hair when they're in between foils. They want to pop their ends open, but they don't have a lot of time. This is a great service to do on solid blonde ends. And I'm just going ahead, melting her root to kind of blend out that line of demarcation since we didn't give her any higher highlights. And then blending a lightener, which is L'Oreal Professionnel Blonde Studio 9 with the bonder inside up just to pop open her ends. I'm going a little bit higher on this very top section because she's more blonde on the top. You can tell she's been doing a few partials. Now that that's sitting, I go ahead, make sure I like everything. I'm gonna go ahead and look everything, and then I'm gonna go ahead and turn her.
What melting brush are you using?
Somebody asked me that.
No, but I think it's good to share.
Oh, and the blending brush that I'm using, the blending brush that I'm using is the Olivia Garden Eye Blend color. I like this one. And I just kind of take it and I flick it out.
What lightener? Somebody else.
What my lightener? I'm using L'Oreal Professionnel Blonde Studio 9 with the bonder inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and start blending the lightener up on her face framing. I get to place it a little higher around her face because, like I said, she is a little blonder around her face. Combing it through with my brush, and then I'm gonna go ahead and actually I'm gonna take a few slices and then I'll place a cotton round since her face framing and around her ears, it's a little bit finer.
Do you change your level of developer throughout the head, or is it the same?
Since I can actually put on this technique in about 30 minutes, I don't change my developer. And right now I'm using L'Oreal Professionnel's dedicated 20 volume developer. I chose to do 20 volume because it gets an extremely even, fast lift. And since I am doing it on wet hair, it is diluting it slightly.
Do you brighten the ends every time?
Not every time. I only do it on solid blonde ends and when I feel like they really need it. Now I'm taking my last section, I'm combing it slightly at a diagonal. I'm holding my brush slightly at a diagonal so it does give me that beautiful teardrop shape. Sometimes even if I take too wide of a section right here, I'll go ahead and split it and start with this one. And I'll kind of do it a little bit lower to match the highest point in the back, right? I'm connecting the dots. So since I have my high point being right here, I'm going to connect my dots and keep my high point right there.
How much did you say that you start this service at price-wise?
I would say around 200. So like my color retouches are 150 and I technically count this as a color retouch. And then my wet balayages are 85. So for an average person, you could charge 20 or add 50. So it just kind of depends what you feel comfortable charging. What I think where I started was 150 for the melt and then 50 for the wet balayage. And then I did $16 a bowl. So I started at around 200, but I also usually do haircuts with this service. So I also tack on a haircut price. Since I can do this so fast, it's a really quick, easy moneymaker. And my clients always enjoy the results because who doesn't like blonder ends? Like, let's be real.
So do you charge for extra product?
Yes, I always charge for extra product. I always recommend charging for extra product because product is money and I love my job. but I really am here to make money. So I like to be as time efficient and as product efficient as possible behind my chair. So depending on the client's hair, I go ahead and leave out the baby money piece for last. Hers is a little more fragile. She's also pretty blonde, so I don't need to worry about hitting it right away. So I usually wait until about 5 minutes are left on her timer. I'm only gonna let this sit for about 25 minutes, and then I'll hit it at 20 minutes, let it sit for 5. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tone her with Light 10.21. This is one of my favorite toners. It's a level 10 violet ash or violet blue. And since she does lift a little warmer, I know it's not going to over ash her out, but it is going to give it that pearlescent hue that she really likes.
Someone asked, first, did you make the baby lights and face frame and then all this process on the same day?
No, this is different. So she actually came in for a retouch, and those are just her old baby lights. We did bring up her money piece, and we're just kind of melting them down. We added a few foils in the back a little bit ago. So now that that's sitting, I usually set a timer. This is great for girls that double book. If this is sitting for 20 minutes, you can do this same service on another client, apply it, and then let that sit for 20 minutes, rinse and tone this for 20 minutes, and really work time efficiently with this technique. So I actually finished the other side for you guys, so you wouldn't have to sit all day doing this. But this will be her ending results. You can see that she has that bright end, bright money piece, but you can tell if she dips her head down, all her foil lines are really well blurred. It dips down a little bit lower in the back to give that gradient effect, but she has those solid blonde bright pops. And you can really see that iridescent pearly color that 10-1 gave her. I only let it sit for about 10 minutes when I toned her. And then also, let me see if I can find a comb. When she pulls her face framing back, since I didn't melt it right away, she's all that blonde right around her face. So she can go ahead and pull her hair up, and she's not gonna feel like having a dark hole around her face. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining my live. If you use my technique, make sure to tag me at Nat_does_hair and at L'Oreal Pro.
They want a closer look.
Oh, they want a closer look? She's a little clip mark.
When would you recommend her rebook with this service?
Now, what I would recommend, since she did a full highlight 3 months ago, I would recommend doing this 3 months in and then do another 3 months. And then I would recommend doing a partial or a full foil, because she'll probably be pretty grown out up here and she'll want some pops. But if your client likes it, then you could probably do this service again, depending on how their ends feel. Also, once this is done, again, I'm shampooing with the metal detox to remove all the metals. And then I also always mask my clients with this, since I am putting lightener on their ends. So I'm using the metal detox mask, and this seals and protects against metals getting back in the hair. Any more questions?
Everybody said so beautiful, looks great. Are you going to?
Yeah. Are you going to use what you learned? Yeah. Make sure to tag at Behind the Chair, at L'Oreal Pro, and me at Nat_does_hair. If you guys use any of these products, I definitely recommend using them and trying them out for your own. Try them on a friend, a model, a sister. You can really, really get some good practice with that. I also want to say thank you so much, L'Oreal Professionnel and Behind the Chair and all your team, for allowing me to do this live today. This is so awesome that I get to do in my career, and this is really surreal. So I hope you guys like the live.
How much do you charge for metal detox treatment before the color?
I do it as an add-on, and honestly, since it is so necessary in Arizona and anywhere where they have extremely hard water, I charge about $30 additive, and then I'll kind of go up from there depending on the client. But I pretty much use it before every service, and I don't really give my clients an option, because if their hair is looking dingy, I want reliable color results, and I know I'll get them with the L'Oreal Professionnel's Metal Detox. Okay, I think we're done. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming to my live. Thank you to everybody on the team. Hope you guys have a great day. And we'll be posting after and before pictures soon. And tag us if you use them.